Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run.
Hi, this is Jan Lewis. Welcome to be my guest. Today we have quite a wonderful lady, and she's going to share with you her story, her real story. At 30 years young, in her doctor's office, she suffered a stroke. Now, how often do we see that? Not really. Rachel Scanlon Henry is with us, and she is also going to talk about the Central Mass Heart and Stroke Walk coming up on May 11th. Rachel, thank goodness we finally got you on the show.
Oh my goodness.
I read about her in
the
the Community Advocate. This was back on, April 5th, and I thought we have got to get her on there. Rachel, this was 16 years ago, right?
Yes.
Take us through what happened. You went to visit your doctor that day.
Yep.
Were you not feeling good or just ordinary visit?
It was an ordinary visit for a new thyroid condition, but I'd had headaches that would crack your head open. I was teaching first grade and wandering around with ice packs in my neck and popping Tylenol. And the school nurse, no one thought it was alarming. I was 30 years old and it was before fast. And I went to the doctor for a routine checkup. The nurse checked me in. Next thing I know, the left side of my body slipped down the wall. I turned massively hot and I lost 100% of my swallow. But when my doctor came in, I had the same doctor from when I was 12 years old. She came in the room. She knew right away what it was. Yeah. And they put me in the ambulance right away and sent me down to St. V's Med City and immediately started assessing treatment and MRIs and everything. But that's the only reason I'm here.
Well, not being able to swallow would scare the you-know-what out of me. How did you cope with that mentally? That would scare me.
At the time, stroke is not painful. Mm-hmm. It silences. It shuts down part of your body. Every minute that your body is having a stroke, you lose 1.9 million brain cells. It's a brain attack. So at that time, I was just completely unclear as to what they were doing, why I was getting in an ambulance, but I knew I couldn't swallow. And sure enough, if I'd been driving a car or at home, I would have aspirated. Because basic things, being able to swallow your own spit, they call it manage your secretions. I couldn't do. So that was the primary thing, was teaching me to use suction, and then taking the MRI and telling me it was a stroke and deciding whether or not I was eligible for TPA for my stroke.
Now, what's TPA?
TPA is the clot busting drug. If you arrive with certain kinds of strokes at a stroke-ready center like St. V's, they can give you a drug that will burst and pop the blood so the blood flows properly and your brain gets the blood it needs. My kind of stroke was a hemorrhagic, which is special and rare, kind of unique, and I couldn't get that. But I was where I need to be put on the heparin, the Coumadin, kept very still and monitored, and it was fine.
But how could you eat?
They
or drink?
That was horrible. That was they gave me a sugar water drip and thought it would come back, and it wasn't, and they're sort of dancing around that, and they took me for a swallow test. But it's not like partial or anything. There was zero. There was none. So a couple of weeks later, it was a great diet. I lost so much weight rapidly. And so they put in a feeding tube.
Yeah.
And
they didn't do it through your nose?
Nope.
No,
feeding tube right there's the stomach. And that was, how I was fed by a machine for a bit, and then eventually able to pull this myself. And that's was the worst part, because breaking bread is your humanity, and when you can't do that, you don't feel human. So that was my, being 30 and having a stroke and being in a nursing home. Things have changed a lot in 16 years.
Sure.
We're aware fast the signs and symptoms of stroke. you talk about it. I'm here speaking with you. There's so many more treatments and treatment centers where young people of any age can get help for a specific. Mine, I had to have somebody who could do the exact possible swallow therapy that might just get me to gag. And yes, it did.
My husband had a swallow therapy, and he came out okay.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with what you did, but I think both UMass and St. V's, they've got these great heart type things going, and stroke and like that. So that we're very lucky in this area.
We are.
We don't have to go to Boston.
No, we don't.
No, we don't. So how long did it take before you could finally eat regularly?
It was 10 weeks.
10 weeks?
It was 10 weeks with the feeding tube, and I would go for therapy 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And they would try to make me, and there was nothing, maybe a little burp and gurgle. But then one night it clicked, and it was like 2 in the morning, and I went,
I can swallow.
Right, and now I had heard in my head my speech therapist saying, whatever you do, don't try to eat anything. You don't know if it will hold, and you're alone, and you don't want to risk your health. And of course I had to, but I had no food in my house because I hadn't been eating. My dad, who lives in England, it's his birthday today. He had brought me from England my pure Cadbury English cream eggs, the real kind, not the American, the real kind. And I had that, and I opened it up, and it took about an hour, but I ate the whole Cadbury cream egg. And the next day, when I saw my speech therapist, I just had a glass of water, as you have, and I took a sip, and she almost had a heart attack right there. And I was off and running, and so they waited a couple of weeks to make sure it held. And then they removed my my feeding tube, and that was a great physical goal to accomplish. But the physical parts of a stroke survivor's journey are just the surface of the iceberg, and that's a great milestone. But then the real work sets in of redefining spirituality, other symptoms, all the invisible symptoms that you might not see, but that affect
How long,
survivors.
in all total, how long in the hospital, were you in rehab?
Back then there wasn't really as many options for stroke rehab, so I was in the hospital for 14, 15 days, and then I was in the nursing home. Jewish home in Worcester.
Oh, yeah, they're great.
They're incredible, but being a 30-year-old person in a nursing home, there was no one else like me. And you used to have access to the medical libraries at St. V's, and I went in and Googled myself, and my possibility for having a stroke at that age was 1 in 1 million.
Anybody in your family, Rachel?
Yeah, my grandmother. My grandmother had a stroke, but she was, late 70s, smoked 4 packs a day. She had a stroke, and I loved the show The Golden Girls.
My parents liked that.
I love that show. And Sophia had a stroke, and my grandmother had a stroke, and I could laugh at that with them. But when it was me in the nursing home, I couldn't make sense of it. I couldn't, couldn't align myself with that reality at that time. It took a very, very long time.
Rachel, with that walk coming up, it is the Central Mass Heart and Stroke Walk. Coming up on May 11th, which is what day next?
Saturday.
This Saturday. It is now Wednesday. May 8th. How can they get in touch with you about this?
Well, we have a flyer.
Let's hold it up
website.
so everybody can see. Okay.
There's a website, centralmaheartwalk.org, and that's a great way to get in touch with all things heart and stroke in Worcester, in Central Mass. It's coming up. I have a Heart Walk team. It's tiny. I'm a school teacher, and we, our students, raise money. Collect spare change. So we have a Heart Walk team, and that's Columbus Park has Heart. That's the name of the team, Rachel Henry. They can find my name on the Heart Walk.
What time is it going to be on
The Heart Walk starts at 10, but you really want to be there at 9 for all the yummy treats and fun games.
Where will they go?
They go to Quinsignment Ave Park.
Yeah, I know.
The one, yeah,
Right opposite
Quinsignment Lake.
UMass, where the water, the lake
Yep,
is.
Lake State Park, right near. There's a wonderful ice cream shop. That's after.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have the whole park, and there's wonderful activities. There's lots. You can bring your dog. It's pet friendly. Your children.
Yeah.
It's definitely a family event, and lots of absolutely amazing survivors. One thing about the Heart Walk, if you are a heart survivor, you're given a red cap, ball cap, to wear in recognition of being
you
a
have
survivor. If you're a child, you get a red cape.
A cape if you're a
A couple
kid.
years ago, they started white hats for stroke. And most years, I'm the only white hat there.
Yeah.
Last year, there was like 3, 4, or 5 of us.
Oh.
People, that's the point that gets me, is that people who have strokes do not generally have the life opportunities I have, but they're not always knowing about opportunities to reach out, and I really find that the key of the matter. It is so isolating and so depressing and debilitating. You've got to get out there. You cannot just stay alone because it's crippling. And you can't, no one can live alone, locked in a room. So I'm very fortunate. That's my goal, is to attract stroke survivors.
Well, if you're looking for this again, look downstairs on the bulletin boards at the Upton Library, and you will see. This is coming up on May 11th.
Yep.
Okay. Today's the 8th, so hopefully we're going to get this word out.
Anytime during the year, go to centralmaheartwalk.org. The website's always there with links to the American Heart Association. That's how I got active. I reached out over email.
We're talking with Rachel Scanlon Henry. And Rachel, at the age of 30 years young, had a stroke in her doctor's office. Carried out in an ambulance,
Yep.
right? And off you went. How did you keep your spirits up? What did you do to survive this? How did you do this?
I didn't at first. The first year trying to get back all the physical things, and I accomplished those goals. Yeah. But then you're by yourself. I couldn't teach. I was rehabbing, and so I was alone a lot, and it was very hard and very depressing.
Yeah.
I think survivors these days have much more opportunities. I would say it was honestly a couple of years of the why me, why me, why me. I couldn't make sense that this had happened to me, to face my own mortality and really know it. I was pretty angry.
Yeah.
And then one day, and I have absolutely no reason why this would occur, but it literally was like that. Why me, why me? I want to die, I can't deal. Became why not me?
Yeah.
And why'd I have my stroke in my doctor's office?
Yeah.
What was
you got lucky on that one, boy.
I know.
My God.
That was that, that GOD thing, I think, or something. I wasn't my time.
Yeah.
And I was meant to. So, from that point of realizing that there was something else I was meant to do, opened me up to receive help a lot more. Working with kids is great because they look to your heart. There's no malarkey laid out there. And then when they can see I've been through hard times, it cuts through a lot of their stuff. They're 6th graders. They got a lot going on.
You're a teacher, right?
Yes.
Well, how
23 years.
How many years were you teaching?
I was 10 years. Well,
when it happened,
7 or 8, yeah.
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 And now you're back doing it.
Yeah.
The same grade.
No. I came back to teaching and ended up in 6th grade.
Now that's kind of a rough age because that's like junior high, right?
Yeah, in Worcester it's still elementary, but they're amazing. Their brains have, it's called neuroplasticity.
All this stuff.
Oh, they have that. But they have a fire in their gut. A lot of my students have been through things that I can't even imagine. They're my heroes, and I let them know that every day. They go through stuff, but we suit up and we show up.
Right.
And that's what you do, and you find other people like you. And our school happened to adopt a Heart Walk team to start spreading the message. Yeah. I really believe. A couple years ago, I was watching Good Morning America, and this little boy called 911 on his dad who had cut his arm.
I heard about that.
Yeah. And I said, well, my gosh, if we teach kids fast, they've all got cell phones.
Yeah.
They can all see one sign of stroke and call.
It's called FACE, right?
Yep.
The first one is,
Face.
look at the face. Then
Yeah,
A is...
A is arm drifting right down.
C...
Well, C is, fast. S.
Fast,
Speech.
Speech.
So any kind of a speech you don't understand, garbled speech, or maybe it's you're really confused statements, and then T is time to call 911. And you only have to see one, and the thing about stroke signs is they are sudden onset. So if you were looking at me, all of a sudden it's like someone vacuum sucked my face, and instantly you're looking at me on the left side, I can't support my weight.
Everything came back for you. My God, I would
know.
never have known that.
Well, there are different kinds of strokes, and depending on where it happens in the brain, different things are going to happen.
Yeah.
Mine was a brain stem stroke. So a lot of the things are neurological on the inside, breathing, heart rate. My mental capacity in my brain is not affected in a brainstem stroke.
right.
But the majority of brainstem stroke survivors end up locked in. They have all cognition and absolutely zero mobility. And to me, that's heartbreaking. But that's why I got care when I did, and that made all the difference.
Rachel, do you give presentations, speeches?
I do.
Where do you go, and how do people get a hold of you?
The American Heart Association knows that my favorite thing to do is just to speak to survivors and caregivers and let them know they're not alone. And it can be really fun reinventing, because nobody is going to have the sort of chutzpah to work hard for a good life than a survivor of anything. And so whatever the Heart Association, they've given me that chance, and I get to do it every day in my classroom. You get to try to find out what you can do to inspire someone to come out of their shell and comfort zone.
And again, how can
push
they
forward.
reach you?
Well, I mean, I'm the American Heart Association, or I'm a teacher, in Worcester, but the Heart Association has all my information.
What's their email or phone?
I get to get
So the
it.
best person to contact would probably be Blair.
Yes, there's is there Blair?
Contact, or do you want the list?
Yeah, Blair Young. I can Blair Young at heart.org.
Blair.young.
Blair, BLAIR .young, YOUNG, at heart.org. He's the regional
He's the
coordinator.
one.
Yeah.
Now, you said to me that you had started a blog about all this.
Yes!
It's sort of your memoir, right?
Yes.
How far are you on that?
I decided to parallel a year in my life then, starting in April 4th, and a year in my life 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I got from April all the way to February. It's up on the website. We own the domain name. I became obsessed with baking when I got my swallow back, and so we own a domain name called the Henry Sugar House.
Okay, the Henry Sugar House, and people can get that .com?
Okay. And my blog is A Stroke Survivor's Guide to Living Life on Life's Terms. And it's at thehenrysugarhouse.com.
Now, that's your home, right?
Yeah, well, it's my friend had a sugar house, and he was a nurse. And
What's a sugar house?
He had a family farm, Kenwa, who was a nurse at St. V's, and a friend of mine, and he had a house built where they would make maple syrup. And they would sugar it off and cut the wood and boil the sap and tap the trees.
Oh,
and
maple syrup.
Yep. And so when I had my stroke, the first 2 days in the neuro unit, he brought in the syrup and put it on my table, knowing I couldn't swallow.
Why would he do that?
To challenge me to say, Rachel,
hurry it up here,
you're
girl.
going to beat this. You cannot give up. Life is so sweet. And I, now I call it God, but these people come in your life for reasons.
Do you go to support groups? There are stroke support groups.
There are stroke support groups. There weren't really ones when I had my stroke. There are one. I've spoken at a couple myself, but many of them are during the day, and I'm blessed enough to teach full-time with help. I need a full-time assistant who's having some health issues of her own, but we'll plow on through. And
I would think of the hospitals around and
Yeah,
all the
they-
different places would be glad to accommodate your hours.
They are. I just spoke and worked with one, did a craft, and met with one in February, and they were very accommodating. But one of the things about my particular stroke, what I live with for my life, is a really severe rise and falls neurofatigue. So
So you get tired and then...
yeah. I get tired, but a good night's sleep, which fills most people's, if you picture a car battery.
Yeah.
My car battery is never at 100%. So a lot of people with neurofatigue from brain injuries or stroke or MS, they have this. And so you have to learn to sort of pace yourself. Yeah. A friend taught me a rule of 3. Each day there's 3 things I can do. So I can go to work, I can go for a walk in the sunshine. Those are like 2. That's pretty big. And I really have to pace myself. So that's why, it's wonderful that you could make room for me.
Oh, yeah.
And May is Stroke Awareness Month. So in May, I'll dig deep. I know summer's coming sometime, but it's a journey of a lifetime with stroke, as with any of us. But sure. I was able to get married after my stroke, and for some unknown reason, I was able to get pregnant.
So you got married after this?
Oh yeah, I didn't know him before.
Oh my God!
I was way too selfish and stubborn to ever have gotten married. No one could put up with me.
When you came down with a stroke, you must have thought, you guys are kidding. There's no
Right.
way. I'm only 30 years old. What are you talking about?
Exactly. I got wonderful stuff. People give me vases and all these things. And I said, oh my gosh, I never got married and never had a baby, but now I have fine crystal.
And you have a 10-year-old son.
Now, yes. Yes, and when I met my husband, I said, I can't have children. I said, I'm cleared to teach full time. 1 month later.
Were you surprised? A big surprise.
Yeah. Big surprise.
And the doctor
shock.
said you won't be able to.
The doctor said, you can work full time. I think your damage is done, and
Oh my God.
not damage is done, but it's not something
Yeah.
And but then my healthcare said you're high risk because of your stroke.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
had me in special high-risk pregnancy, and in 5 months they found chylothorax in my son.
What's that?
It's a hole in the chest wall of the baby.
Oh my goodness.
And they found it because they were especially monitoring me.
Yeah.
And if they hadn't found it, if I hadn't been high risk, they wouldn't have found that.
He would have
in him.
died?
I mean, I can't know. They found this hole, and if you,
How'd they fix him, though, Rachel?
it's the weirdest thing. The way to fix chylothorax is for the baby to eat. But the problem is most infants with chylothorax really have a hard time eating at all. But not my kid.
He ate.
He was in the NICU at Memorial, and they're the
That's
most
what my son was.
Was he really?
Well, he had jaundice. So the men in my family seem to be born with jaundice. In the old days, Mom says, well, we used to put them under the window with the sun.
That's right.
Now they have those little beds.
Yeah, giraffes.
Yeah, and then
Yes.
they sent him home, and they delivered a home thing called a wallaby machine that could just, we had only for a day or two, it just kind of like wrapped around his tummy. He was fine.
Nice.
But, it was high enough that they said, no, he's got to stay here.
That's right.
Kind of hard to go
There-
home without your kid, but,
It's hard. I
Yeah, how long
know.
was your son in the...
He was in for 11 days, 14 days, and they kicked me out after 4, and that was
You go home without your child?
that was weird because I was such in a state of shock that I hadn't even been able to have him. And
Did they
here
let
he
you have
was.
him the regular way, or did you have to have a C because
That
of the
was
heart?
definite planned. Planned C-section for me.
Yeah.
There's no way a stroke survivor should be anywhere near doing
No,
anything
it is-
laborious.
Yeah, let me tell you.
Yeah, I'm so sad I missed that.
Oh,
part
you're
now.
so lucky. Oh, God. Well, again, we're talking with Rachel Scanlon Henry. And Rachel is a stroke survivor at 30 years young. This was 16 years ago. So your anniversary was this past
My
month.
stroke anniversary is 4/4.
So April 4th.
April 4th. Yep. And I call it a stroke anniversary. I mean, as long as the numbers go up, you should celebrate birthdays and stroke anniversaries.
Is there a chance it could happen again?
Okay, I did. Of course, I asked that. Fortunately, the word is non-recurring. So I have as much chance as anyone else to have one until I hit a certain age where your possibilities increase. But I'm aware, and my neurologist and the American Heart and Stroke Association are teaching me how to get rid of those risk factors.
Yeah.
80% of strokes never have to happen.
But you didn't cause it.
No, mine was not one of the 80%. It was,
No, it just happened.
but it was partially due to a car accident and had years before whiplash. And whiplash weakens when you snap your head forward. It weakens the vertebral artery. So strokes that are brought about by that kind of injury are on the increase from things like certain amusement park rides, whiplash. So you need to be aware of that and look for signs of sudden headaches, really severe knock you on your tushy.
Well, how long
headaches.
after your accident did the headaches start?
The headache, my stroke, and it wasn't 100% caused by that, but the headaches, that was all, I don't know, 6 years after. So it wasn't the main cause immediate.
Yeah.
But the headaches were that was not normal. There's nothing that could cause that kind of...
It must have been like a migraine times 10.
Right. And now people know the second you feel it,
Just go to the doctor.
go to the doctor. My neurologist, every time I see him, I say, is getting better. And he said, no, people think they're going to go to sleep and wake up feeling better with a good night's sleep. And it's not that
You
way
may not
with
wake
stroke.
up.
That's right.
Now,
And
Rachel, we've got about 2 minutes left.
sorry.
Again, how can they reach you for the walk?
for the walk, centralmaheartwalk.org, May 11th is Saturday at Quinsigamond State Park on Lake Ave in Worcester. And they can also reach me through blair.young@heart.org.
Now, where do they go? Now, of course, I know UMass, and I know the lake. I've seen the students on the regatta. Where on the lake do you go?
There's a park, Quinsigamond Lake State Park. It's at 283 Lake Avenue, across from the hockey rink. And they would go in there.
Okay, so it's
And park.
it's not as far down as UMass. Okay, so it's
No.
on lake. I know where the hockey rink is.
Yep, right
and there's
across.
a big park there.
Yep.
Now, how far are you going to walk?
You can walk, that's a good thing. You can walk 1 lap or 2 laps or
Okay.
whatever. I'm not telling you. I'll see how I feel.
See how you feel. Yeah, you know what? And what if you're pushing a baby stroller? I got to walk in the dog.
Yep, there are. There are lots of dogs, and people are just,
Yeah.
go at their own pace, and there's wonderful teams. So many people in Worcester are involved.
Will your son be with you?
My son,
husband?
my husband,
There you go.
possibly some students, and lots of friends.
So you're open to giving some presentations if somebody is
Anytime.
anywhere, at a support group, at a rehab center.
Absolutely, anytime. And I want to take my blog and turn it into a book.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a story that a lot of people can identify with.
If you want people to reach you more, you want to give out your email?
Oh, sure, my email. My email is rrscanlon, rrscanlon @aol.com.
And don't be afraid to get in touch with her.
Yeah, and the blog's
really.
a great thing, too. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're very excited.
You should be a busy girl. Between teaching,
Yeah,
helping others,
yeah.
your walk coming up.
Yeah.
Do you sleep?
No, but that's a stroke thing. I haven't really.
You don't sleep well?
I don't sleep well.
Is it
That's
because
okay.
it's a fear thing?
No, well, it used to be, but now it's it's a lot of breathing. It probably's got some fear things.
Do you
to
have a
work
sleep
on,
mask?
too.
Do you have to?
I don't.
You don't.
But I found those nose strips, those
They
simple.
work?
Oh my gosh, boy, do they help.
They do.
So it's a journey, and no one ever died from lack of sleep. So I better just toughen up.
Oh, I think I
Try
could
to-
feel like if I miss just one night, I could go the next day. But suddenly, towards the end of that day, I'm not feeling well. I'm like, I don't
know.
feel too good. Kind of like a sick feeling.
Lumpy.
Once I do, if I'm good for 10 hours. Once I'm asleep, I'm like a kid, gone.
I gotta learn how you do that.
Well, I
You
never
have to-
outgrew it. I was like that in school. I hated getting up for school in the morning, and I loved the weekend. If I could sleep till 11 or noon, I was good.
Oh wow.
Well, you look at a good 12 hours.
Yeah.
I needed it. I still do.
Right.
I still do.
And
I-
it's good you know that. That's how people give their best when they're awake.
All right, so no more medical treatment. You're good to go now, right?
Yeah.
Look at her. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you
Good
so
luck
much
on the
for
walk.
having us. We're going to rock the walk.
Gonna rock the walk.
And we're so glad that you took the time
welcome.
to. It's incredible to meet you.
What a powerful example. We'll see you next time on Be My Guest.
Riding on a shooting star, heading out toward a dream.